there's only so much you can say about yourself before it stops getting interesting. But really having this concept of characters helped a lot.
This is a deeper listen from listener-powered KEXP. This is the show where we talk with musicians about the thoughts and the experiences that shape their music. I'm Roddy Nickpour. Bumbershoot is taking place later this month, right around the corner from KEXP's home base. I mean, seriously, I think we'll literally be able to see it happening from outside our window. It's happening August 30th and 31st at Seattle Center, and one of the headliners happened to stop by KEXP to talk about their newest album. Earlier this year, Car Seat Headrest released The Scholars on Matador Records. It's their first album in 5 years, and you could say it follows the tradition of a rock opera. KEXP Midday host Cheryl Waters talked with vocalist Will Toledo about two major aspects that make this album different from others. One, it was much more highly collaborative, and two, it's a concept album. Here's Cheryl.
Will, how you doing?
Very good. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you again, Cheryl.
It's always so great to see you, and I'm beyond excited about the new record, The Scholars. I've been playing it nonstop. It's too early well, I don't know if this works for you when you listen to the album, but you have like a favorite song every week.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're like, this is my favorite song, and then you keep listening more to the record, then you have a new favorite. I've definitely been hitting Devereaux pretty hard.
I was hurt as my granddad's name. First time that I felt its weight, I cried and I said, Devereaux. In the space between here and you, there's a kid who don't know what to do. He waits in the silence to hear.
How does it feel to send a record out in the world? Is it kind of like pushing a little baby, launching a baby out of the nest?
Yeah, I think so. It feels good. And, you know, I do try and avoid listening to it too much because it's better if we're just focusing on the live show, focusing on what's actually cooking for us. Whereas right now the album is more for the rest of the world. And so it's very good to just hear back from people how they're feeling about it, what they're hearing in it, and it's been very rewarding so far. The initial reception has been quite warm.
Well, talking about the live show, I want to say you look great. I know you had some health issues that you've been struggling with over the past few years, and I have heard that you're feeling much better, which I'm really happy to hear about. But it sounds like you're excited about touring. And for a time, while I know that it is great to share your music with fans, touring was something that maybe felt exhausting to you to think about. And it sounds like you're really looking forward to it now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we've set it up this year so that it's a much less demanding schedule, just a few shows every month, and kind of picking and choosing where we go so we don't get too overwhelmed. But, you know, this whole process of making this record, a big part of it was just kind of playing in the studio together as a band. And then I start getting flashes of like, well, this would be really great on stage. And so, you know, that's just kind of a very organic buildup to wanting to do it live. Whereas in the past, you know, it's kind of just expected that you put out the record and then you tour. And there's always been sort of a scrabble to even get songs ready for tour, because we would just write, and a lot of it would be my solo material, and we'd get it into album form, and then we'd have to figure out how to actually play it on stage. Whereas this was very much coming up with the music together so that there was nothing to translate. You know, we could just do the same thing and it would work when we went on stage with it. So I think that's why we're all pretty excited to go and have that experience with other people.
What do you think led to creating the album that way? Was there some sort of catalyst? Because obviously you have made so many records on your own.
Yeah.
And that's something that you know how to do. You could go into autopilot with that. And you started so young with each new record. You learn more and more and more and more and have more skills and more knowledge. What led to this being such a collaborative way of working together?
Well, I think since we signed to Matador, there was sort of a backlog we were working through of my own stuff. Teens of Denial had been written, and then we went back and re-recorded Twin Fantasy, and then Making a Door Less Open was kind of solo stuff I had started tooling with from the early days of Matador, but just kind of putting it into final form. And so this was really the first time we had kind of a blank slate. I didn't have anything finished or demoed out. And eventually I had a few demos, but, that was something we talked about at the beginning, was the rest of the band wanting that sort of collaborative process to begin with, and wanting everyone to be able to contribute more. And it seemed like the right time for it. We'd been a band since 2016, but we hadn't been able to really reflect that on the record so much. And so it just became, our practice space became a workshop, and anyone could bring anything in, and we'd try it out, and we'd jam together. And because this was a very kind of a long time frame for making an album, it's been 5 years. We had the time and space to kind of take it easy and just see where the music went. And, we just started finding pieces that we liked and went from there.
You've obviously developed a deep relationship with Ethan, Seth, and Andrew over these years, and there has to be some trust that's really been built over that time. How have you been able to observe how it's felt for them to be more involved in this? I mean, to have that sort of investment in a band that they love and have been a part of for so long has to make things feel different for them.
Yeah, I think everyone was a lot happier with this process. And, trust is definitely a process as a band, and you get pushed and pulled, and, success can be a very stressful situation on four people who are working together, and touring is always very stressful. And so, we kind of got to the end of that last tour for the last record, and we were stretched out. There were tensions for sure. And I think we kind of set out with this album to sort of build up that trust again and feel better working with each other. And it paid off. We all went in with the best heart and best intention. And, to me, it went like one of my favorite things of hearing back this record is remembering those times, sort of building up that relationship together and making it stronger.
I select the skin from my parents' clothes. I keep the love in. Every now and then I see it in them. Silent whisper carried by the wind. Through chaos and insane. Let there be fire, let there be water. You collapse on my heart. I'm gonna stay with you.
I'm talking with Will Toledo. I'm Cheryl Waters. Thanks so much for tuning in to KEXP. That is one of the longer tunes, not the longest, though, on the album. And as a music lover, and because I am so fortunate to work at KEXP, I never want to play a radio edit. I want a song in its full length. And when I really, really, really love a band, I want to play a long song. And short little snappy songs are great, but sometimes you're just like, I just want that to be longer because I love it so much. So thank you for those beautiful, epic long songs.
Yeah, well, thank you for playing them. I think a lot of radio stations feel differently, so I'm glad we've got you representing us. But it's funny, we have always been given this 3.5 minute frame for the radio edit on previous albums, and it's always been such a nightmare because we've always had long songs. So it's always how do we do it? How can we possibly cut these songs down? And this time Matador sent back some proposed cuts, and they were actually like up to 4.5 minutes. And I'm like, what happened? Radio stations are letting their hair down now. This is positively roomy.
Well, it must be a real challenge for you because it's not like your verse, chorus, and so you could just pick one verse and two choruses. I understand that when you were recording and writing that you didn't even let yourself worry about the length of the songs. You didn't have that in mind. Like, we got to create these radio friendly. And more than ever on this album, you just put that out of your mind. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's true. And that kind of came out of the way that we were putting it together, with just going in with band jams, with trying to burrow into these different songs and sounds. And, it was just kind of clear from the music that we were working with that they needed that space. They needed that room to grow. And at the same time, I was getting more interested in classical music as a format. And classical music is always pretty long too, or usually pretty long. It allows for that space to grow. So it's really just kind of looking at different ways of building up music from the ground up. And so there's a way, it's more of the pop song or the folk song, where it's just got a few basic parts, like a verse and a chorus, and it's pretty easy to keep it in that smaller frame. But if you're not working with that language, then it just makes more sense not to worry about that shorter time frame and just say, let's let the ideas grow so that they work.
I love that. Well, these ideas definitely work on this new album. And I would like to talk about the stories you're telling. You've titled the album The Scholars, and there's somewhat of a concept for the record. What and whose stories are you telling on this record?
We landed on this sort of character concept where each song is a character. And, going along with my interest in classical music, I did want this record to have this sort of some sort of conceptual or narrative framework where people could go in, enter a different world or a different space for that hour plus that the album is. But I didn't know what kind of concept we wanted, and we all knew that we wanted to focus on the songs and make sure that each song was solid rather than getting bogged down in writing out some story and trying to map music to it. So the compromise that we worked out was that, there's this setting of this fictional university called Parnassus University, and kind of draws from my own experiences going to college in Virginia. But it's set in some sort of fictional America that's kind of got these elements of long past cultures kind of colliding with modern day culture. But, it's really just about the students and the people who are living and working there, and just kind of creating this patchwork where as you go through it, you kind of get a better sense of the bigger picture.
It's kind of newish for you to be telling someone else's story. You've told a lot of your own stories.
Yeah, and I think, for me as an artist, telling my own story is also, kind of fictionalizing it at the same time. I'm living, but then I'm also creating this work of art that tells a story that's, the story that is what I want to tell. And I just, I wasn't really interested in doing that anymore. I think there's only so much you can say about yourself before it stops getting interesting. And I was definitely ready to go somewhere else. And I think what kept me writing about myself was this fear that it would become too artificial or too insincere if I wasn't writing about myself. But really having this concept of characters helped a lot, where it's sort of a Venn diagram where they might be different from me, but if I write things that make sense, that resonate with me, that can also reflect them, then it sort of gets bigger than me, and it stays sincere while not having to worry about how it reflects me or whether it's part of the Will Toledo story or anything like that. But, it's me giving a sincere portrait of someone that I can relate to rather than it being me.
Keeping in mind, earlier I said my favorite song could be different every week or every month. Are any of these stories your favorite or nearer and dearer to your heart than others?
I don't know. The story of Rosa, and that goes with the song Gethsemane. She's this medical school student, and she kind of unlocks these supernatural powers where she's able to heal people by touching them. But it comes at a price where when she goes to sleep, she lives through their pain, she lives through their suffering, and that's sort of the price of healing. I relate to that. I think that kind of came out of my own illness, getting COVID and then getting post-COVID in 2022. I spent a lot of time in bed. And it's just kind of you access sort of a different reality when you're sick. And for a while, I think it turned out to be a B vitamin deficiency, but I was having these very vivid dreams that, they didn't feel like dreams. Usually you go to bed and you wake up with some fragments. And this really felt like I wasn't sleeping, just like a solid 8 hours of brain activity. And so I came out of that, I think, with these first hints of Gethsemane and the character of Rosa. And so I've grown to really like her a lot as sort of a representative of the album and sort of the new direction that we're going in with it.
I called you 1,000 times to take away this cup. There will be no miracles till the ransom's added up. Tell me what you want from me. Tell me what would make it be enough.
Thank you so much for coming by today. It's such a wonderful record. The Scholars from Car Seat Headrest, Will Toledo. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me in.
That was none other than KEXP's Cheryl Waters talking with Will Toledo about Car Seat Headrest's newest album, The Scholars, out now on Matador Records. You can catch them and many other incredible artists at this year's Bumbershoot Festival, August 30th and 31st. Learn more at bumbershoot.com. And that was A Deeper Listen. When you go to see Car Seat Headrest at Bumbershoot, by the way, turn to the person next to you in the crowd and tell them that KEXP sent you. I mean, even if we didn't send you to the show, tell them about A Deeper Listen, this podcast. We want as many people as possible to find this show and connect with their favorite artists and discover new artists along the way. You can also leave a review on your podcast app. That is super helpful. And you know what I'm going to say, of course, your financial support is always welcome. This is a nonprofit arts organization, a public radio station, and it's thanks to our donors that we're able to tell stories and have conversations like this. Hope you'll consider becoming an amplifier by giving just $6 a month or more at kexp.org/deeper. Thank you to Cheryl Waters and Mira Powell for producing this interview, to Janice Headley for web design, and Matt Ogaz for audio mastering. And I'm Roddy Nickpour, thanking you for taking a deeper listen. Take care.